The freedom you're most proud of might be the closest thing to a cage you own. No boss. No rules. Do what you want when you want. That version. And I know how good it sounds. It's the one thing almost nobody questions. But nobody locked that cage. That's the whole trick. The door is standing wide open, and you have quietly, comfortably decided to stay. Stay here with me too, and you'll see something uncomfortable. Why having more options than any human in history has left you more stuck, not more free, and what freedom actually was the entire time, underneath the word they sold you. I walked out of a structured life once, expecting relief. What showed up instead was dread. And then something worse. I caught myself performing a personality I'd assembled entirely out of other people, and calling it being my own man. There's a third problem with modern freedom, and it isn't about chains. It's about who went missing on the inside to use it. That's the one you're going to fight me on. Before we get to that third problem, the one about who went missing, one small thing. If you'd rather build a self than borrow one, this is the channel for it. 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I take one comfortable word apart. Subscribe. And like this, if the door's open and you stayed, landed a little too cleanly. Now, the first lie. Here's the definition you were handed. Probably before you could even question it. Freedom is the absence of restraint. No one telling you what to do. No cage, no chain, no boss, no rules. The more of that you strip away, the more free you supposedly become. Freedom is a subtraction. You get there by removing things. And it feels self-evident. Nobody argues with it. It's stitched into every ad, every graduation speech, every daydream about quitting and driving off into an open road with no destination. Fewer constraints, more freedom. Simple math. I believed it completely. For years, my whole idea of a better life was just less. Fewer obligations, fewer people I had to answer to, get the weight off, and the free man underneath would finally stand up and breathe. But I want to be careful here, because this belief isn't stupid. It's half true, and the half that's true is what makes the other half so hard to see. Removing a cage is a real thing. It matters. It's just not the same as being free, and mistaking one for the other is where almost everyone gets quietly lost, because this belief has 3 problems. Not 1, 3, and they stack. The first one, you'll accept. The second one, you'll recognize. And the third one decides who's actually driving your life, but you won't see it until you've walked through the first 2. So start with the crack that's easiest to see. The first problem is that what you were sold is only half of freedom. The empty half. There's a man worth introducing here, Erich Fromm, German psychologist, born 1900, Jewish, who watched the Nazis rise and fled to America in the 30s. So when he asks his big question, it isn't academic. He'd just watched an entire nation, handed freedom, run screaming to give it back. In a book called Escape from Freedom, he splits the word in 2. There's freedom from, free from restraint, from rules, from authority. And there's freedom to, free to actually become something. The version you were sold is only the first one. Freedom from. And here's what nobody tells you about it. On its own, it doesn't liberate you, it isolates you. Think about what actually happens when the structures fall away. The tradition, the given path, the role you were handed at birth, gone. And yes, the chains go with them. But so does the floor. Suddenly it's just you, standing in open space, holding the entire weight of the question nobody prepared you for. So what do I do with myself now? That's not the feeling of wings. That's the feeling of the ground disappearing. I know that exact drop. I walked out of a structured life expecting to feel lighter, and for about a week I did. Then the openness stopped feeling like a meadow and started feeling like being lost at sea, every direction available, and not one of them chosen, and no one to blame if I picked wrong. Freedom from had shown up right on schedule. It just came with a kind of dread I had no name for. But the dread isn't even the real problem, it's just the surface. The real damage is in what you do the second that dread gets unbearable. Here's what you do. You run from it. And the direction you run is the second problem. Fromm said that when freedom from gets too heavy, people don't carry it, they escape it. They find a way to hand it back and make the dread stop. And the most common escape in the modern world isn't dramatic. It's not joining a cult or bowing to a dictator. It's quieter than that. Fromm called it automaton conformity. You dissolve yourself into what everyone else is doing, wanting, buying, thinking, until there's no separate you left to feel the weight of choosing. If I want exactly what everyone wants, I never have to stand alone behind a choice that's mine. And you'd swear you're not doing it. That's the genius of it. You call it my taste, my opinions, just what I'm into. But run the honest audit. How much of what you want arrived through you, and how much arrived through a feed, a group, a sense of what people like you are supposed to like? Most of it was installed. You just experience it as preference. There's an old experiment that shows how little pressure it takes. In the 1950s, a psychologist named Solomon Asch sat people in a room and showed them lines. Obvious, not even close comparisons, and had everyone else in the room, all actors, confidently give the wrong answer out loud. Around 3 out of 4 regular people went along with the group and denied their own eyes at least once. Not because they couldn't see, because being alone against the room felt worse than being wrong. Now stretch that from a lab into an entire life. But fear and conformity, honestly, those are still almost respectable. They're understandable. The third problem is the one that isn't, because it isn't about the freedom you gave away. It's about the freedom you still have right now and can't use. Quick, honest step out. The reason I can take a word this sacred apart, instead of selling you 10 habits of highly free people, is that this channel doesn't run on what the feed rewards. It's funded directly by people, not by an algorithm. And that's the small, unglamorous version of the exact freedom I'm describing. Making one thing, on purpose, off the machine, because it's mine to make. If it's worth something to you, the Buy Me a Coffee link's in the description. Pay what you want, or nothing, and stay. Because the worst problem is coming, the freedom you already have, and somehow can't spend. Here's the third problem, and it's the one the first two were quietly building toward. You have more freedom to choose than any human being who has ever lived, and almost no ability to actually choose. Because there's no one home to do it. Sit with the scale of your options for a second. 10,000 things to watch tonight. Any career, in theory. Any city. Any belief. Any diet. Any version of yourself. All one search away. Every previous generation would have called this heaven. And what did it produce in you? Not freedom. Paralysis. The endless open tab. The scroll that never lands. The weekend with nothing required and nothing chosen. There's a study people love here. A grocery store put out samples of jam. A table with 6 flavors got people buying. A table with 24 flavors, more choice, more freedom, got almost no one to buy at all. Too many doors, and people just walk away. I'll be honest, because this channel doesn't do tidy, that particular study doesn't always replicate, so hold it as an image, not a law. But you've felt the thing it points at. You've stood frozen in front of infinite options and picked nothing, and called that a nice relaxing night. And here's the cut underneath it, the one that connects to everything. A cage you walked into on your own doesn't feel like a cage. It feels like freedom, because the door's open and you could leave any time. But I could leave any time is the exact sentence that keeps you inside forever. You never have to actually go, because going was always still available. The open door isn't your escape, it's your excuse. So the options were never the freedom. 1,000 doors mean nothing if there's no one standing there to walk through one. So if freedom isn't the absence of chains, and it isn't the pile of open doors, then what is it? And no, I'm not about to tell you the answer is discipline. Here's the true version, and it's the exact thing Fromm was pointing at with that second half of the word. Freedom was never the absence of chains. Take every chain off a person who has no self, And you don't get a free man. You get a leaf in the wind, blown around by whatever want is loudest that day. Freedom, too, is different. Fromm described it as the spontaneous activity of the whole, integrated self. His two examples were love and meaningful work. Not free from the people who bossed you. Free to actually become someone specific, to have a center that generates your choices instead of just reacting to the options in front of you. And that reframes the whole thing. Negative freedom without positive freedom isn't liberation. It's just a prettier kind of anxiety. Removing the cage was never the finish line. It was step one, and almost everyone stops there, mistakes the empty room for the destination, and spends the rest of their life wondering why open space feels so much like drowning. I made a whole video on the digital cage, the one that watches you into behaving. Here's how it connects. That cage is what freedom from looks like, with nothing built inside it. You're free to scroll anything, say anything, be anything, which is precisely why you never look up, never commit, never become. Endless options, and no self to spend them on. The open cage and the digital one are the same room, seen from two angles. So the opposite of the cage was never more open doors. It's something almost nobody was ever taught to build. You build a self. That's it. That's the whole thing. And it sounds almost too plain until you feel how hard it actually is. Freedom isn't escaping structure. It's becoming solid enough to choose one. Not fewer options. That's just a smaller cage. Not more discipline. That's just a stricter warden. A center. A self with enough weight that your choices come out of who you are instead of out of whatever's trending. And here's the part that reverses everything the open door told you. Freedom isn't keeping every option available. That's the anxiety. Freedom is wanting one thing clearly enough that most of the other doors simply stop mattering. Think about what that means. The person who can say, "This is mine, this is what I'm for," is freer holding 3 options than the automaton is with 3,000. Because he can actually move. He's not free from choosing. He's free enough to choose and let the rest fall away without grief. Commitment isn't the opposite of freedom. Commitment is what freedom is for. An open door you never walk through was never freedom. It was just a nicer looking waiting room. You don't get free by keeping every door open. You get free the first time you walk through one on purpose, as yourself, and don't spend the whole time looking back at the ones you closed. That single-owned choice, small, unremarkable, entirely yours, is worth more than the entire hallway of maybes. So what does that actually look like on an ordinary Wednesday when no one's watching and there's no dramatic leap to make? It's smaller than you'd want, and it doesn't photograph well. It's not a life overhaul. It's a set of small reps that check whether there's a chooser in there at all. It looks like picking one thing and closing the other tabs. Not to be more productive. I don't care about your output. To become someone with edges. You choose the book, and the other 9 you might have read stay unread, and you make your peace with that instead of keeping them all open forever in a pile that's really just anxiety with a cracked spine. It looks like having an actual opinion, not the safe one, not the room's one, yours, and then holding it when the table turns and looks at you. That's the Asch experiment run in reverse, the small, unglamorous act of being alone against the room and not folding. You'll feel exactly how strong the pull to cave is. That pull is the automaton, and every time you don't obey it, you get a little more real. And it looks like doing one thing that came from you, not from the algorithm, not from the group, not from what someone like you is supposed to enjoy. Something you'd still want if no one ever knew you did it. That last part is the whole test. Strip away the audience and see if the wanting survives. If it does, that want was yours. That's a brick in the self you're building. None of this feels like freedom on day one, though. I need to be straight about that. On day one, it mostly feels like loss. Let me put it in one weekend. 2 people, same Saturday, the exact same freedom. Nothing required of either of them. The whole day open. The first one wakes up into all that openness and keeps every door open all day. Maybe he'll see friends, maybe he'll start the project, maybe he'll rest. so he does none of them, fully. He scrolls through options for something to watch and watches trailers instead of a film. He texts 3 people, "We should do something," and makes no actual plan. He keeps the whole day available and available and available until it's dark and it's gone. Sunday night he says the thing he always says, "I just need more freedom, more time to myself." He had it. He had the whole day. He just never spent it. The second one has the same empty Saturday and does something almost embarrassingly small. She picks one thing she actually wants, not an impressive thing, not a productive thing. She wants to spend the afternoon repotting plants, or getting lost in one specific record, or driving to a town she's never seen for no reason. And she closes every other door and just does it. Fully. Present. And somewhere in that afternoon something quiet happens. For a few hours, she's a person. Not a menu of possibilities, a self doing a chosen thing. Same Freedom Fromm. Both had the open day. Only one of them had freedom to, and it cost her nothing but the willingness to let the other doors close. But before you turn that into a nice tidy lesson, there's a line I have to draw. Here's the line, because this idea rots in 2 very specific ways, and I've watched both. The first is turning build a self into another optimization project. You hear, become someone with a center, and immediately reach for the productivity version, curate a personality, build your personal brand, assemble a self designed to be seen and admired. But a self performed for an audience isn't a self. That's just automaton conformity in a nicer outfit, chasing the group's approval one aesthetic at a time. If you're building it to be watched, you're still borrowing. The real thing is often invisible. No one will clap for the record you loved alone on a Saturday. The second failure is worse, and it's the oldest one. When building a self turns out to be this hard, it gets very tempting to skip it, to just hand your freedom to something that will do the choosing for you. A guru with all the answers. A rigid ideology that tells you exactly what to think, so you never have to weigh anything again. A strong voice you can dissolve into. Fromm called this one out too. It's the same escape, just louder. A borrowed self is so much easier than a built one. It's also the thing you were trying to get free of, wearing a mask you happen to like. And the honest cost. Building a self will, at first, make you lonelier, not freer. The moment you start choosing from your own center, you'll disappoint the crowd that liked the agreeable, available, shapeless version of you. The group gives its warmth to people who match it, and you're going to stop matching. That's not the plan going wrong. That's the receipt. You're trading the warmth of the herd for the weight of being someone, and for a while, you feel the weight before you feel the freedom. So here's what I'd actually leave you with, and it isn't a technique. So I'm not going to hand you a plan to find yourself. A 10-step program to build a self would just be one more borrowed self, assembled from my instructions instead of the crowd's. That's the opposite of the point. One question. Tonight, name one choice you made this week that was actually yours. Not the obvious kind, not what you ate or which show you watched. A real one, a belief you hold, a taste you have, a line you drew, that you'd still stand behind if the whole room turned and disagreed with you. One thing you didn't check against anyone before you wanted it. Take your time with it, because the speed of your answer tells you everything. If one comes fast and clear, good, that's a brick, build on it. But if you go looking, and the shelves are emptier than you expected, if every belief has a group attached, every taste has a source, every choice was really a consensus you signed, then sit with that. Because that's your answer about who's actually running your life. That's the difference between being free and just being unsupervised. And that's the whole thing, really. Nobody has to lock you up when you'll stay in an open cage on your own. Nobody has to take your freedom when you're this willing to hand it to the crowd for a little warmth. The door's been open the entire time. You don't have to walk out tonight. You just have to stop calling the inside of the cage freedom and start being honest that you've been choosing to stay. Remember the open cage from the start, the door that was never locked. You've been standing in it long enough to call it home, And I'm not going to pretend one video walks you out of it. It doesn't work like that. But here's where a few of us stop pretending together. In the comments, name one choice this week that was genuinely yours. The one from a second ago, the one you'd hold if the whole room disagreed. And if you went looking and couldn't find one, write that instead. Honestly, that's the braver comment, and it's the one someone else needs to read so they feel less alone in the same empty room. Send this to the person in your life who keeps calling, keeping every option open, freedom, the one drowning indoors. And if you want a space that's built, not borrowed, funded by people who decided it should exist, not by an algorithm, the link's in the description. That's not charity. That's you keeping one built thing alive. I'll be here Friday.